In October 2019, a wildlife camera 30 miles west of the Shoshone backcountry captured something walking upright between frames 2 and 3. Frame 2, empty trail, 11:46 p.m. Frame 3, empty trail, 11:47 p.m. But when the ranger downloaded the SD card, there was a fourth image. Frame 2.5. Timestamp, 11:46 and 33 seconds. In it, a figure stands dead center, facing the lens. The metadata says the camera never triggered. Tonight, we're showing you 4 more clips like it. Footage that shouldn't exist, from cameras that were never supposed to wake up. You found the faint whisper, where the trail doesn't end at the trailhead, it just goes quiet.
Breaking news tonight. A joint inquiry is underway regarding synchronized anomalies across the western U.S.
Case 1. It started with a black bear. June 2018, Kern River Ranger District, California. A wildlife technician named Marissa Holt placed a motion-activated trail camera along Fire Road 26, roughly 8 miles from the nearest campground. Standard protocol. She was tracking a tagged black bear, a 307, a young male with a torn left ear. The camera faced a granite outcrop where the bear had been spotted twice before. Marissa checked the camera every 2 weeks. For the first month, the footage was routine: deer, coyotes, a few hikers passing through during daylight. Bear number 307 showed up on June 19th, sniffing around the base of the outcrop, then vanished into the brush. On July 3rd, Marissa hiked back to pull the SD card. When she got there, the camera was still mounted, still running, battery at 61%. But the casing was covered in a thin layer of dust, and 3 of the mounting screws had backed out slightly, like someone had loosened them, then reconsidered. She brought the card back to the ranger station and opened the files. The footage ran clean until June 29th, 10:22 p.m. A doe moved across the frame, paused, looked directly at the camera. Normal. Then, at 10:23 p.m., the image cut to black for a single frame. When it returned, the doe was gone. The outcrop was empty. But now there was something else. A boot print. Fresh, right in front of the camera. Marissa froze the frame. The print was sharp, deep in the dirt, like someone had stepped there within the last few seconds. But the camera hadn't recorded anyone walking into frame. No motion trigger before the blackout. No motion trigger after. She scrolled forward. 10:31 p.m. Another blackout. 1 frame. When the image returned, there were 2 more prints. Closer now. Positioned as if someone had been standing directly in front of the lens. 10:47 p.m. Blackout. This time, when the footage resumed, there was a hand, palm open, pressed against the camera housing. The fingers were smudged, dirty, but the angle was wrong, too low, like the person had been kneeling. Marissa called her supervisor. He came down, reviewed the footage, checked the timestamp metadata. Everything matched. No tampering, no gaps. The camera had been running continuously, but according to the motion log, it had only triggered 3 times that night. The doe, and 2 blank frames that shouldn't have registered as motion at all. They hiked back out the next morning. The boot prints were gone. The dirt around the outcrop was smooth, untouched, but the camera casing now had a single scratch along the lens cover, fresh. It hadn't been there 2 days before. Marissa pulled the camera, sent it to the district office. They replaced it with a new unit, same location. 3 weeks later, the new camera recorded a figure standing at the edge of the frame. 11:03 p.m., humanoid, unmoving. It stayed there for 6 consecutive frames, then disappeared. No motion detected, no exit. The Kern River camera is no longer in service. Marissa Holt transferred to a desk position in Sacramento that fall. She won't talk about Fire Road 26, but in her final report, she wrote one line that was later redacted. Something new we were watching. Case 2. Nathan Ruiz was a forestry surveyor. Quiet, methodical. He spent most of his contract work alone in the Ochoco National Forest, eastern Oregon, mapping old-growth boundaries and logging recovery zones. In March 2020, he installed 6 trail cameras along a ridgeline near Whistler Springs, a remote area accessible only by Forest Service roads. The cameras were synchronized, same make, same firmware, same interval settings, 1 photo every 30 minutes, motion override enabled. Nathan checked them monthly. April's pull was normal. May's pull showed the usual progression: elk, wind-blown branches, a single cougar moving through at dawn. But June's footage stopped him cold. Camera 3, the one positioned along a talus slope overlooking a dry creek bed. The images were fine until June 11th, 2:17 a.m. Then the sequence broke. 2:17 a.m., empty creek bed, shadows from lodgepole pines, normal. 2:47 a.m., same angle, but now there was a person standing in the creek bed, facing away from the camera, wearing a dark jacket, completely still. Nathan zoomed in. The figure's posture was wrong, shoulders too square, head tilted slightly back, like they were looking at the sky. No pack, no visible gear. 3:17 a.m., the figure was gone, creek bed empty again. Nathan assumed it was a hiker. Unusual for that hour, but possible. He kept scrolling. 3:47 a.m., the figure was back, same position, same posture. But now it was 20 feet closer to the camera. Nathan's stomach dropped. The cameras were interval-based. They took 1 photo every 30 minutes unless motion triggered them early. But the motion log showed no triggers, just the scheduled shots. 4:17 a.m., closer again. Now the figure was at the edge of the creek bed, standing just below the ridge, still facing away. 4:47 a.m., the figure filled half the frame, standing at the base of the slope, directly below the camera. Nathan could see the back of its head now, dark hair, wet, maybe, matted. 5:17 a.m., the camera was black, completely dark. Not a blackout frame, just solid black, like something had covered the lens. 5:47 a.m., the image returned. The figure was gone. The creek bed was empty, but there was something new. Scratches. 4 parallel marks across the camera's lens cover, deep enough to distort the image slightly. Nathan pulled all 6 cameras the next day. Camera 3's casing smelled like soil. Damp, fresh soil, even though it hadn't rained in weeks. The scratches were clean, deliberate. He checked the internal memory. The motion log confirmed. No triggers between 2:17 and 5:47 a.m., just the scheduled shots. He filed a report with the Forest Service. They sent a technician to inspect the camera. No malfunction, no evidence of wildlife interference. The technician noted in his summary, lens damage inconsistent with environmental wear. Orientation suggests contact from below. Nathan didn't go back to Whistler Springs. He finished his contract remotely. But 2 months later, he received an email from another surveyor working the same zone. The subject line was blank. The message contained a single image attachment. It was from a different camera, different location, same forest. Timestamp, August 4th, 3:33 a.m. The figure was back, standing in the center of the frame, facing the lens this time. Nathan deleted the email. He never opened the attachment again, but he still remembers one detail. In the preview thumbnail, before he trashed it, he could see the figure's face. It was smiling. Case 3. Rangers in the Cherokee National Forest don't talk about the Tumbling Creek camera. In November 2017, a wildlife monitoring team installed a high-resolution trail camera near an old footbridge on Tumbling Creek Trail, about 12 miles southwest of the Ocoee district. The goal was to track white-tailed deer migration. The camera was set to capture stills and 15-second video clips when motion was detected. For 3 weeks, everything ran normally. Then, on December 9th, The camera recorded something impossible. 11:04 p.m. A hiker appeared in the frame, walking north across the footbridge, male, mid-30s, wearing a red jacket and a gray pack. The video showed him crossing the bridge, pausing to adjust his straps, then continuing up the trail. Normal. 11:19 p.m. The same hiker appeared again, same red jacket, same gray pack, walking north across the footbridge, same stride, same pause to adjust his straps, identical. The ranger who reviewed the footage, a man named Colin Shepard, assumed the timestamp had glitched, but the metadata was clean. 2 separate recordings, 15 minutes apart. 11:34 p.m. The hiker appeared a third time, same movements, same pause, same direction. 11:49 p.m., a fourth time. Colin checked the motion log. 4 distinct triggers, 4 separate events. He watched the clips again, frame by frame. The hiker's gait was identical, the way he touched his strap, the angle of his head. Not similar, identical, like someone had copied the footage and pasted it 4 times. But the background changed. In the first clip, there were leaves on the bridge. In the second, the leaves were gone. In the third, there was frost on the railings. In the fourth, the frost had spread to the planks. Colin drove out to Tumbling Creek the next morning. The footbridge was empty. He checked the trail in both directions. No boot prints, no disturbances. He pulled the camera and brought it back to the station. The internal clock was accurate. The battery was fine. The SD card showed no corruption. But when Colin tried to delete the 4 clips, the files wouldn't erase. He reformatted the card. The files remained. He sent the card to a data recovery specialist in Knoxville. The specialist called him 3 days later. "The files are looped," she said, "but not digitally. The footage is original, 4 separate recordings, but the subject is performing the exact same actions down to the millisecond. It's like he walked the same path 4 times and hit every mark perfectly." Colin asked if that was possible. "Not unless he was following a script," she said. "And even then, no. The variances would be too high. I don't know what this is." The camera was reinstalled in January 2018. Different location, different trail. On January 14th, it recorded a woman in a blue coat walking south. She crossed the frame, stopped, looked directly at the camera, then continued. 12 minutes later, she appeared again. Same coat, same stop, same look. She appeared 6 times that night. The Cherokee National Forest pulled all trail cameras from the Ochoco district in February 2018. They cited technical inconsistencies. But Colin Shepard kept a copy of the original Tumbling Creek files. He's watched them hundreds of times. He still can't explain one thing. In the 4th clip, just before the hiker steps off screen, he turns his head, just slightly. And for a single frame, Colin swears the man is looking at him. Not at the camera, at him, like he knew Colin would be watching, like he'd always known. Case 4. There are 11 trail cameras in the Gila Wilderness, New Mexico, managed by the Forest Service, monitored quarterly. In April 2021, a ranger named Elaine Cho was assigned to check cameras 7 through 11, a cluster positioned along the West Fork of the Gila River. Camera 9 was missing. Elaine found the mounting tree. The straps were still there, bolted tight, but the camera was gone. No sign of animal interference. No scratch marks. No damage to the tree. Just an empty bracket. She noted it in her report and continued her route. 2 weeks later, a hiker found the camera 3 miles downstream, sitting upright on a flat rock in the middle of the river, lens facing upstream, completely dry. The hiker turned it into the ranger station. Elaine retrieved it, checked the casing. No cracks, no water damage. The SD card was still inside. She loaded the footage. The last scheduled recording was April 3rd, 6:13 a.m. A gray fox moving through the underbrush. Normal. After that, the camera should have stopped recording. It had been removed from its mount, so no motion triggers should have registered. But the footage continued. April 3rd, 9:22 p.m., a video clip, 15 seconds. The camera was moving, shaking slightly, like someone was carrying it. The image showed trees passing by, a darkening sky, the sound of footsteps on soft ground. April 4th, 1:35 a.m., another clip. The camera was stationary now, propped up somewhere. The frame showed a section of the river, moonlight on the water, no sound except the current. April 4th, 3:48 a.m. The camera was moving again. This time the footage showed a close-up of hands, human hands, turning the camera over, inspecting it. The hands were dirty, fingernails caked with soil. The video ended abruptly. Elaine checked the motion log. 3 triggers, 3 clips. But the camera had been offline, disconnected from its mount. It shouldn't have been recording at all. She watched the 3rd clip again, slowed it down. The hands were careful, deliberate. They weren't trying to disable the camera, they were examining it, like they were curious. And then she noticed something else. In the background of the 3rd clip, just barely visible over the person's shoulder, there was another camera. A trail camera, same make, same model, mounted on a tree. But the Gila wilderness only had 11 cameras, and Elaine had accounted for all of them. She froze the frame, zoomed in. The camera in the background had a serial number stenciled on the side. She cross-referenced it with the Forest Service database. The number didn't exist. Elaine returned to the river the next day. She found the flat rock where the hiker had discovered camera 9. She searched the surrounding area. No other cameras, no mounts, no fresh disturbances. But on the opposite bank, she found something else. A line of stones. 11 of them, arranged in a perfect row along the water's edge, each one roughly the size of a trail camera. She counted them twice. 11 stones. Elaine filed her report. Camera 9 was returned to service, but she included a note in the documentation: recommend discontinuation of all units pending external review. The Forest Service didn't respond. In June 2021, Camera 9 recorded a figure standing in the river at 2:14 a.m., holding something rectangular, facing upstream. The footage was flagged, archived, never reviewed. Elaine Cho transferred to a fire lookout position in Colorado that summer. She doesn't work with trail cameras anymore. Case 5. The Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness spans over 1 million acres, remote, roadless. In summer 2019, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources installed a series of trail cameras to monitor wolf populations near the Canadian border. Camera 12 was placed on the shore of a small, unnamed lake. No trails, no campsites, accessible only by canoe, and even then, only if you knew where to look. The technician who installed it, a woman named Grace Levin, paddled in alone, mounted the camera, checked the settings, paddled out. The entire trip took 4 hours. She didn't go back until September. When she retrieved the SD card, the footage was wrong from the start. July 18th, 4:02 p.m. The lake, calm water, pine trees reflecting on the surface. A loon called somewhere off-screen. July 18th, 4:32 p.m. The same shot. But now there was something floating in the water. A small object, maybe 30 feet from shore. Dark, circular. July 18th, 5:02 p.m. The object was closer, 10 feet from shore. Grace zoomed in. It looked like a lens, a camera lens, floating upright just above the waterline. July 18th, 5:32 p.m. The lens was gone. But now there was something on the shore. A wet footprint, single, no pair, just one print facing the camera. Grace checked the motion log. No triggers, just the scheduled interval shots. July 18th, 6:02 p.m. The footprint was dry, but there was a second one now, a few feet to the left, also single, also facing the camera. July 18th, 6:32 p.m. 4 prints, scattered across the shore, all facing the lens. Grace scrolled faster. July 18th, 11:02 p.m. The shore was covered, dozens of prints, all identical, all facing the camera, arranged in a spiral pattern that radiated out from the waterline. July 19th, 12:02 a.m. The prints were gone. The shore was smooth, but the camera had tilted, just slightly, like someone had nudged it. July 19th, 3:32 a.m. A figure stood at the water's edge, facing the camera, humanoid, featureless. The image was overexposed, blown out by the infrared flash, but Grace could see the outline, arms at its sides, head slightly bowed. July 19th, 4:02 a.m. The figure was gone. July 19th, 4:32 a.m. The camera was black, solid black, no image, but the audio was still recording. Grace turned up the volume. She heard breathing, slow, wet, close to the microphone, and then a voice, faint, whispered. She couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. It sounded like counting. July 19th, 5:02 a.m. The image returned. The shore was empty, but there was something new, a message, scratched into the dirt directly in front of the camera. Grace froze the frame, leaned closer. The message was a number, 12. Grace pulled the camera the next day. She didn't report the footage. She didn't tell her supervisor. She archived the files on a personal drive and requested a transfer to a different district. But before she left, she checked the DNR's camera inventory. She wanted to know why the number 12 mattered. There were 13 cameras in the Boundary Waters network. She'd only ever installed 12. 5 cameras, 5 locations, thousands of miles apart. But when you compare the metadata, something emerges. The Kern River camera recorded its first anomaly at 10:22 p.m., the Ochoco camera, 2:17 a.m., the Cherokee camera, 11:04 p.m., the Gila camera, 9:22 p.m., the Boundary Waters camera, 4:02 p.m. Different time zones, different dates, but when adjusted for UTC Coordinated Universal Time, they all align to the same moment, June 29th, 2018, 05:2200 UTC. Every single anomaly, across all 5 cameras, traces back to that exact second, and there's something else. In each case, the cameras recorded a sequence that shouldn't exist. A figure, a message, a loop, something that knew it was being watched. But none of the cameras were connected to a network. No cellular, no Wi-Fi. They were isolated, offline. So how did they synchronize? In 2021, a researcher named Dr. Paul Hendricks began compiling trail camera anomalies for a private database. He collected reports from 14 states, over 200 cameras. 63 of them showed the same timestamp pattern, all pointing back to June 29, 2018. 05:22 UTC. Dr. Hendricks stopped updating the database in 2022. His last entry was a note. The cameras aren't recording what's there, they're recording what's watching. He didn't elaborate. The 5 cameras in tonight's cases are no longer in service, but their footage remains, archived, locked, inaccessible to the public. If you check the original installation logs, you'll find something interesting. All 5 cameras were installed within a 6-week window in early 2018. All 5 were the same model, same firmware version, same manufacturer, and all 5 were part of a batch that was never supposed to leave the warehouse. A shipment flagged for disposal after a factory defect was discovered in the motion sensor array. Someone installed them anyway. No one knows who. If you're watching this, you've seen the footage we're not supposed to talk about. The clips that don't follow the rules. The ones where something looks back. Here's the part they don't tell you. Trail cameras are everywhere now. Forests, parks, private land, watching, waiting. And somewhere in those millions of hours of footage, something is learning. Learning how we move, how we look, how we watch. The Kern River camera was decommissioned, but 2 months later, A new camera in the same district recorded a figure holding a lens. The Boundary Waters camera was pulled, but the message in the dirt appeared again, on a different shore, a different lake. Whatever's out there, it's not staying still. So the next time you're on a trail and you see a camera bolted to a tree, ask yourself, is it watching the woods or is it watching you? This is the faint whisper. If you want more cases like this, the ones that don't make it to the news, subscribe and turn on notifications because the footage keeps coming and we're just getting started.
Disclaimer: The Faint Whisper shares fictional horror and mystery stories told in a true feeling style for entertainment. These narratives are not presented as verified real events, and any resemblance to real people, places, or incidents is coincidental. Some visuals on this channel are created using AI generation tools. Viewer discretion is advised.